Hey, Matt Priest here. Welcome back to another exciting edition of the Shoe and Show. This is actually our special shoe leadership series, partnered and powered by OrthoLite. And so in this series, we're bringing in a lot of great thought leaders and leaders within the industry that have just wisdom and knowledge and information they want to impart on our listeners and our viewers around the world. And so today's is no different. Before we bring in Christie and our guest, I want to thank OrthoLite for their partnership, because OrthoLite is making this series possible and is a trusted partner. It works with over 550 companies and brands and continues to elevate comfort and performance across the industry. So we want to thank them for powering these conversations. Go to shoeleaders.com to learn all about what we're doing. Now, Christie, it's been 9 years since you were on the Shoe and Show.
9 years.
9 years. So you had an episode with us not too long ago. We explained kind of your return to the FDRI family. But I'm excited to have you with us for this conversation, and I want you to help us introduce our phenomenal guest.
Thank you, Matt. I'm excited to be back. So today we have Kris Wright, Vice President of Jordan Footwear. Kris, welcome to Shoe and Show. Share with us a little bit about your shoe story, how you got into the footwear industry.
Well, firstly, thank you for having me. I appreciate you, Matt. I appreciate you, Christie. It's interesting. I got into the industry by happenstance. I needed to do an internship when I was in my junior year of college. And I honestly was trying to still figure out what I wanted to do. And I knew the things I was passionate about. I was passionate about music. I was extremely passionate about sport. And I literally pulled out a white pages and found that Reebok had a satellite office in Atlanta, Georgia, where I went to school, and BMG Music Group also had a satellite office. I cold called, asked if they had internships for school credit, got interviews for both, was offered roles for both, and here we have it 29 years later, still in the athletic footwear and apparel industry.
So, I mean, the white pages, Kris, we got to explain to our, like, what is even a white page? You're aging myself because I know what it is. And that's a phenomenal story that you went into the white pages and cold called Reebok in Atlanta. What a cool thing.
Yeah, and I definitely dated myself. Back in the day, depending on if you lived in an apartment or a house, or in a dorm, annually, you would get a yellow pages and a white pages dropped on the doorstep.
That's right. Yep. And that, you could use it to like hold the door open or cold call your future employer. I mean, those were all the options available to order pizza, whatever it was. Those were the options for you. Now, when you think about your role in footwear now, Kris, kind of walk us through on how your journey has shaped your leadership style. I've seen you posting on LinkedIn a lot lately, just kind of these really great wisdom nuggets that you're dropping to your network. But what has shaped your leadership style at Jordan over these years?
I start by saying it actually started before, like, even getting into the industry. Growing up where I grew up in Harlem, New York, and it was definitely not a easy era that I grew up in. But I'm big on building and being able to eventually flex muscles. And, one of the muscles that I had to truly build was just strength and resilience. And growing up in a tough time and going through a number of different adversities, that resilience is truly what has helped to guide me through my career journey to this point. So much so that, I ended up having the courage at one point in my journey to leave the comforts of corporate America and become an entrepreneur and start my own footwear brand as well.
Yeah. And I think we'll unpack that in a bit. But was there a defining moment, whether in your childhood or even in your career, that really kind of hit, like you talked about the resilience? Was there a moment in time or a story or a conflict or something that really impacted your direction and how you're going to continue to develop that resilience?
Yeah, if I'm being like completely honest, it was like a tug of war. Growing up where I grew up, especially in the era I grew up, it was a push pull. And, unfortunately, when you're in an environment like that, there are mainstays in your neighborhood. And, the push pull that, you see in the trappings of what success looks like, although by ill-gotten means, still something that's appealing. But then I also had an amazing push-pull that was tethered to sport. I played basketball, and I played basketball in an amazing era when I believe New York had the best talent. So it was interesting juxtaposing, the pull for the streets and also, the pull for playing basketball. And obviously I chose the path of basketball for all the right reasons, which ended up leading me to truly being able to harness my passion that I was able to turn into a career. Because the reality of it is, there was no me that I knew of, that I even knew existed. So someone who was deeply steeped in macro and micro cultures, tethered to sport, tethered to street, tethered to music. But being able to truly find a path, a positive path, a safe path, was probably the best thing that ever happened to me.
That's amazing, Kris. And it sounds like you've had a lot of experience with teams and with different cultures. Pivoting a little bit to brand and culture, how do you keep your team currently and maybe in the past aligned on values while navigating change?
Well, there's a few different ways. I think firstly and foremost is establishing what our team values are. So when I think about, call it the last 8 years or so, we've been super steeped in the values of being able to show up authentically, everybody being accountable, everybody leveraging a level of curiosity, everyone understanding that they need to be courageous in the way they lead, courageous in the way they manage, courageous in the way they have conversations and communicate, and then also just making sure that everyone shows up and is ready to compete every day. We're in a fight, we're in a fight every day. We're in a fight every month, every year for our existence, to stay number one in this business, in this thing we do. But how that starts to, shape from my vantage point, from my seat, is I always level set on the expectations. I'm very keen on making sure that everyone understands what they're being held accountable for and what they're responsible for. Secondly, I always leverage, quarterly all hands meetings where we bring in incredible external parties, guests to talk about their experience through their practitioner lens in whatever industry or discipline they come from. We also do workshops with our extended leadership team to make sure that we're prioritizing their own learning and development. But more importantly, those are the people who are also managing people. I just want to make sure that from my directs to their directs, everyone understands what they're being held accountable for, And the last piece is just ensuring that I'm holding folks accountable. Because if I'm holding folks accountable, my expectation is that my leaders are holding their people accountable. And, so on goes the accountability chain.
Mm.
That's so important. And are there specific ways that you spark creativity or innovation?
There are a number of ways that we spark creativity. Honestly, I believe that everything starts with consumer. So when I think about, our remit and the thing, I'll just give you an example. When I think about how we set up our staff meetings, we have 3 pillars. It's always about people, it's about product, and it's about process. So when I think about people, in this case, I kind of split those into 2 vehicles. There's our team, and then there's consumer. And we're all about making sure that we're leaning into our team. We are focused on developing our team. We're focused on giving our team the tools and the resources to be able to get after their work in new and innovative ways. But I think, honestly, what's the most important piece to the question here is truly being able to engage and lean into having a consistent relationship with consumers. Because if we're left to our own vices, a lot of subjectivity comes into play. So we're always out mining for insights and truly engaging with consumers because we want to make sure that we're making truly consumer informed decisions. And that bleeds into a product. We're always looking to innovate with our storytelling. We're always looking to innovate with athlete and consumer benefits and the products that we're building. And then I think the place where we get really creative and innovative and always tweaking and figuring out how to become that much more efficient and most importantly, that much faster is with our process and our op model.
Yeah, I love that. It's really thought through and almost meticulously. And in about a 10-minute conversation, Kris, and I've known you for a long time, but I'm starting to really kind of gain insights into your leadership style. One from your background from Harlem. And when I think about Harlem, someone who didn't grow up there, I think of just phenomenal, robust culture. I think of Showtime at the Apollo. I think of, basketball in the parks, the first half of the dawn of hip hop. Even the Harlem Globetrotters, my goodness, they would talk about performance and spectacle and those things that really drive our industry, right? Being cool and innovative. And then you went down to the ATL and you were a hustler, right? You were getting after it and you were kind of charting your own success. Are those the aspects of Kris Wright that makes your leadership unique and what you bring to the Jordan family?
Absolutely. I'm big on lived experience. When I think about culture, it means you were there. You were there, whether it was at a show that, most people would kill to have an opportunity to see Biggie or Tupac live. But yeah, it literally is all of my lived experience has in some way, shape or form informed my leadership identity and who I am today as a 50-year-old, professional in the footwear industry.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that with us. How do you approach staying relevant in such a competitive and fast moving market?
That's a really good question. It's interesting. I have always, along my journey, leaned into mentorship. And the reason I lean into mentorship is because I've always had people who leaned into me at different junctures and different stops along my journey. But what I think is really important is there is a value there's a reciprocal value that I believe that I owe the young folks coming up in the industry. And I believe that there's so much that they don't even realize that they do for me in terms of breathing energy into me via information. I'm big on information is power. And, the reality of it is, where I'm at in my life, I'm not moving around in the same way that I may have been moving around at 25, although I am still very much active in where consumers are at. But they're going to see things through a different filter that I just may not be able to see things. And then also I'm able to, provide a level of information in the form of how to move, how to operate, how to navigate environments like corporate America. So I'm really big on reciprocity and leaning into young folks, but making sure that it's a two-way dialogue and a two-way street in terms of how we're sharing information with one another.
Yeah, I have to ask you a question, Kris, because I agree it's a two-way street and having that opportunity when, and it's cliche, like pay it forward and all that kind of stuff. But when you get to a point where you're 50, which I'm close to that age, and you have the opportunity to reach back down and provide the wisdom you've learned and some of the failures, to be honest with you, that I've learned, that I've brought upon myself sometimes, and kind of, hey, you might want to go this route. I think those are all great opportunities. But have you ever dropped the white pages story to one of your mentees and they look at you like you have two heads, you have no idea what you're talking about?
I've often shared that story because I think it's well, at least I've been told it's an impactful one. And
Yeah.
yes, it's funny. I don't remember where it was at, but it was pretty recent. I shared this story and someone asked, what is a white pages? Which I thought was hilarious. But yeah, it's funny, man, how eras change and technology moves us forward.
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, that leads us into a great segue and kind of what the consumer's doing right now, right? As one of the most iconic global brands in history, Jordan is everywhere. It is just, I mean, it's just the depth and breadth of the brand is just awe inspiring. But you got to adapt and adjust. And so, what is the consumer telling you right now that you think you need to kind of it's really guiding you through how you lead Jordan and how you make sure you're bringing product to the consumer that they want to buy?
Yeah. So it's interesting. Sometimes it's not what they're literally telling you and socializing to you verbally. It's their actions. And what I've observed over the last decade, as tech has gotten progressively better, I'm seeing a couple of things. I'm seeing the world become that much more global. And what I mean by that is everybody's seeing the same thing at the same time because everyone has access to the same social platforms. So if everybody's seeing the same thing at the same time and everybody's seeing the same thing and has access to it globally because they can procure it on digital platforms, what that tells us is that speed is critically important. And what they're telling us, the way that they're consuming products, and this goes beyond just our industry, it's like music, it's everything. They're telling us that like you got to be fast, and if you're not fast, you're going to be left behind. I'll use an example that's applicable, but not necessarily our industry. When you think about the music industry 30 years ago, an artist would probably put out an album every 3 years. Mm-hmm. Now, artists put out music maybe every month, depending on what kind of artist you are. So just the speed that product for consumers to consume is coming is pretty rapid. And I think that expectation is the same when it comes to our industry as well.
Yeah, I love that analogy. I've never made that connection, but you're so right. I mean, now, Kris, there'll be a band that's dropping an album or an artist, and it's 6 months out, and they'll drop a single like every month or whatever the lead up is just to generate those streams because it's all a streaming game right now, right? Yeah. So you're right. It's like speed to market and like whetting the appetite consistently, always being in kind of relevant in the forefront of the consumer's mind, and just it's kind of tapas, right? It's just like feeding them, micro connectivity that allows them to, when the big drop comes, the new Jordan drop comes out, there's a lot of hype for it, and then a lot of brand heat that comes with that. How do you develop kind of a culture that really helps your team think about risks and innovation, right? Because Nike, the broader Nike family is it's the biggest footwear company in the world. Yep. And with that comes the process, that 1P you mentioned. It comes, I hate to say it, some bureaucracy at times. How do you foster risk-taking and innovation in such an established company?
Yeah. So how we've done it in the 4 years that I've been in my role is I believe in making sure that the team has the same level of visibility that I have. So as an example, if I have the ability to move around and, see things that have a level of provoking my thinking, I try and bring that into the room with the broader team that I lead. So as an example, we have quarterly all hands meetings, and we always tend to bring in special guests from outside, so that we're bringing in different experiences, different ways of thinking, and different ways that people innovate outside of our industry. The most recent experience I had this past spring, I had an opportunity to go to Monaco and go to F1. And
Wow.
it's interesting, like when I think about like sport culture, it's kind of crazy that, I didn't have visibility to this amazing sport until
I don't have visibility. Yep, for sure.
Yeah, but it was probably, and when I say this with all the humility in the world. I've had an opportunity to go to All-Star games, NBA championships,
Yep.
World Series, like name it. I've been to every sporting event that you could imagine, but I never had an experience like this. But also just to see the galvanization of the fan base and seeing how these teams operated and the size of these teams and just these machines. These are literally rocket ships moving around on the street going at 270 miles an hour. So it's just truly amazing. But long story short, I ended up meeting some interesting fellows who happened to be in the same group that I was in. One of the gentlemen is a guy named Rob Smedley, who has worked and led some of the F1 teams on the engineering side. He's like world renowned, pretty well known, and most importantly, respected. But we had an opportunity to spend a couple of days together, just hanging out, just talking, getting to know each other. And I was thoroughly impressed with the way he operated, the way he moved, and all of the things that he had been able to accomplish to that point. And I thought to myself, man, this would be an incredible person to have come and speak at my team's all hands. So fast forward this past July, I had Rob and two of his partners come and speak to our team. They also figured out a way to democratize F1. I don't know if people know these facts, but F1 is probably one of the most expensive. It's not even probably is the most expensive sport to get into. Essentially, to pave your way into F1 seat, which is only 20 of them, it costs $33 million over the course of your journey. So it's kind of crazy, but
it's crazy.
They've made a strategic decision to democratize the sport by making the cost of entry fractional through karting. So they're starting a global karting league, which I think is pretty commendable, especially considering, how many people really have that kind of funding.
Is it like the D League for F1, basically?
I just call it the EYBL of F1.
Okay.
Versus D League. So think about youth basketball. Nike obviously has the premier elite youth basketball league. That's what I would call it. But the thing that I really appreciate about it, beyond just the democratization of getting into F1, it's truly going to yield, I believe, the best racer versus the racer with the most money who happens to be good. It's a big difference.
Yeah,
that's a huge difference.
You've talked a lot about bringing experiences, guests, speakers, mentorship. What is Kris's secret sauce to helping develop young talent?
If I keep it at a macro level, honestly, I'm a straight shooter. And
that's Harlem, man. That's your New Yorker.
Yeah, when people come into my office, when we go get a coffee, they know they're going to get the real from me, whether they want to hear it or whether they don't. For me, what I've enjoyed is, and it's interesting when I think about mentorship, and I like to call it like board of directors. You have people that you surround yourself with that make you better. I've benefited from people who just kept it all the way real with me. And, I think that's, there needs to be more of that in our ecosystem. So I lean into, just being brutally honest with people. And obviously, I'm hypersensitive and understand that, I can't talk the same way to everyone, but one thing they're always going to get is just the honest truth from me. and it's all with the best intent to make sure that they get better.
That's so important and helping them beyond that conversation. On the flip side, you talked a lot about curiosity and looking at leaders who are courageous. Are there other distinctions or aspects that you look for in leaders to build your brand?
So yes, and when you say my brand, you mean my team?
Your team, yes.
Yeah, so it's a really good question. I think just adding to it, and it kind of goes with the values piece. Integrity is really important. But again, if you kind of go back to the point I was making around the globalization of our industry and the fast-paced nature of it, for me, the thing that's really important to building teams is making sure that our teams represent the communities we serve. So ensuring that you have people who represent our constituents of the consumer communities that are out there, whether that's GC, EMEA, APLA, North America. You just want to make sure that there's a number of perspectives, because that's how you start to really bring a level of diversity of thought into how you're kind of formulating the ecosystem to build whatever product that you're trying to build for the communities you're serving.
So, Kris, last question, then Christie's got a fun one to close us out. What most excites you about the rising generation of footwear professionals that you're bringing into the fold at Jordan, or that you just interact with maybe at other brands, or vis-a-vis the Black Footwear Forum, which I know you're a huge supporter and a partner with us on that? What excites you most about the rising professional within our industry?
It's interesting. I had to discover this industry to be able to harness my passion. I think that the young folks coming up today know that this exists now, but their passion is that much stronger. And that's the thing that really excites me. The number of emails or messages I get on LinkedIn, the number of people who reach out via other people through relationships, like there's this an undying passion, an infinite passion that cuts through. Conversely, when I engage with these kids, like you can't fake that. And that truly excites me, because if there's a level of passion and excitement, I feel really good that at some point when I ride off into the sunset, this industry is going to be left in the right hands.
I love that. All right, Christie, closes out. Let's shift away from leadership and let's ask Kris a probing question that I know you're chomping at the bit to ask him.
I love it. I'm really excited for this answer. Kris, if you were to wear one shoe for the rest of your life, you can get as detailed as you'd like. What shoe would that be?
Oh boy.
Something that breathes.
What's funny? These kind of questions are always pretty amazing. Can I do this? Does it have to be one? Can I give you three?
Yeah, let's do top three.
Okay, because here's why. What I would rock today is very different than what I would have rocked had you asked me this question 30 years ago. So I'm gonna go with 30-year ago answer to this question, a 15-year ago answer to this question, and then today. And I'll give you the reasons why in a second. So 30 years ago, fresh out of Harlem, still in school, but, starting my way path into this. And, this would have been right around the time when I went into the internship. But New York City, and specifically Harlem, we were known for a shoe called Uptowns. Uptowns are Air Force One. And that was a staple in my wardrobe. So if you had asked me that 30 years ago, it would have been Air Force One all day, every day. 15 years ago, coming out of being an entrepreneur and having my first interview at Jordan Brand, where I started my career journey at Nike before going on to other roles along Converse, Nike, and then back in Jordan. I'll never forget the hiring manager asked me the same question. But he specifically asked me about Jordan. And it's interesting that my first Jordan ever was the Jordan 5. And I explained to him why I loved it. And when I kind of reflected on the details and the thought that Tinker put into that design and the inspiration that he took and put into that design, it was one that kind of blew my mind when I was a kid, having never seen such an irreverent aesthetic in that manner before. So Jordan 5 was it 15 years ago. And today, I'm a bit more refined in how I dress and how I show up every day. And, when I think about a shoe that will be ubiquitous for me along the rest of my sneaker wearing life and journey, is hands down Air Jordan 1s all day long. It's just more fitting for my style and my aesthetic and my taste level today.
Any colorway or one specific?
No specific colorway. The funny thing is, I'll tell you this, I don't wear hype shoes. Interestingly enough, I'm more into, muted and subtle inline colors. But specifically it's OG lows. Is
OG lows?
My cup of tea. Yep.
So I know my last name's Priest, but I need to confess something to you, Kris, because I've shared this on the OSD podcast with Sean and Dee, but I do have to let you know, in 1989, I just moved to the DC area. I always took my dad sneaker shopping because he would actually buy me cool sneakers. My mom, not as much. And so I bought some Jordan 4s, my first pair of Jordans, and loved them. I was going up, but I wasn't a Jordan guy. I know this is sacrilegious, but it was 1989. I was a Magic Johnson guy. Magic just looked like he enjoyed life and had fun playing. Jordan always looked angry and determined and competitive, which I'm none of those things. So I just love Magic. I want to have hang out with Magic kind of guy. So I'm going up an escalator at a department store in Tyson's Corner, Virginia, and there's a bolt sticking out of the escalator, and it tore through the sidewall of my Jordan 4s. So we went to the customer service, my parents and I, and they're like, just go buy another pair and bring us the receipt. So I go to, I don't know, Foot Locker, Champ, something. And I went, and they had the purple and gold weapons. And so I bought those. And I know this was in 89. It's not like it's 2025. Now it's like totally sacrilegious. I saw Magic Johnson wearing an Air Jordan shirt in a social media post. So I know that it's sacrilegious now. But was that an okay move in 1989 when I was 12 years old?
I think it was probably okay. I think it's funny. A lot of people I knew loved Magic. I think that finals shifted folks, and people understood the true competitive prowess of MJ, though, when they beat the Lakers.
This is my shoe. If I had to wear one pair of shoes ever for all time, this would be it right here.
Okay.
So,
weapons. Nice.
Yep. Anyway, Kris, I appreciate your forgiveness of my sin, and then I'm okay having changed out weapons for Jordan 4s. So that's our secret. It's between the three of us. We'll just keep it to ourselves. I can't thank you enough for coming on here and just sharing your shoe journey with us, Kris. It's every time we do one of these, I hear these phenomenal stories that put people in the places that they've been. I shouldn't be surprised. You're a sharp, wise, intelligent guy who's been hustling for 30 years or whatever the number is. So thank you for coming on and helping us explore your story here on Shoe and Show.
No, I appreciate it, Matt. Thanks for having me. Thank you, Christie. I appreciate it. This has been wonderful. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you all.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you,
Folks,
Kris.
this has been another exciting edition of actually our Shoe and Show leadership series, where we are unpacking conversations with really important people in our industry and who've been gracious to us to come on and share their stories with us. Go to shoeleaders.com or shoeandshow.com to access all of these episodes, and make sure you check out the next episode that drops here coming up on Monday. Every Monday, every week, it should be in your podcast inbox, or go to shoetube.org and you can check out all of our episodes. Thank you for coming and thank you for watching. And until next time, Shoe and Show is out.